PLEs. Are we doing the PLE thing? Like, I was like preparing to do this video as of recording this. I don't know what I'm gonna title it yet. Are we doing the PLE? Are we switching it? Like, I know WWE switched it to premium live event, but man, I can't see myself not calling it pay-per-view. So for you know, just for the rest of this video, pay-per-view PLE. You know what it means. You know what I mean by it, okay? Don't be a dick in the comments. Ooh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump YouTube page. I am Kyle, otherwise known as the hardest part of the ring. Got a doozy for you today. Pay-per-views, PLEs. Are we doing the PLE thing? Like, I was like preparing to do this video as of recording this. I don't know what I'm gonna title it yet. Are we doing the PLE? Are we switching it? Like, I know WWE switched it to premium live event, but man, I can't see myself not calling it pay-per-view. So for you know, just for the rest of this video, pay-per-view PLE, you know what it means. You know what I mean by it, okay? Don't be a dick in the comments. But we're here to talk about these PLEs because it's always a hot topic of debate as far, you know, really specifically talking about WWE as far as what pay-per-views should exist, what pay-per-views should not exist, the order of pay-per-views, how many pay-per-views per year, when they should occur. And it's been a recent topic of discussion online due to a variety of things. For one, of course, the new Triple H head of creative regime, whatever you want to call it, has prompted a lot of changes already. You know, as of recording, we're a few months post Triple H taking over, post Vince leaving. And that was a big thing with Vince. It's like, as long as Vince is there, things aren't changing. But now that Papa H is at the helm, that just prompts the IWC, all of wrestling fans, to kind of think about what things could change within the WWE, and that includes pay-per-views. And we've already seen some changes. For example, day one was canceled. You also have pay-per-views like TLC seemingly, you know, gone, thank goodness. International pay-per-views are making a comeback, as we saw with Clash at the Castle. And we're also going to be seeing with Elimination Chamber coming up in 2023 in Montreal. I don't know why I said it like a Spanish person, but in Montreal. So WWE is clearly expanding their reach, trying new things, which made me think, with all these changes in pay-per-views and the schedule, what would be that ideal pay-per-view schedule? Well, you're in luck, because as per the title of this video, that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna build the perfect, the ideal, the best pay-per-view schedule that there ever could be. And if you disagree with me, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear it. I mean, if you want to leave some comments, you know, saying that it is or what you would think, that would be great. It would really help out, you know, with the algorithms. Yeah, please leave a comment, actually, if you could. Thanks. And I should say, before we really get into it, this has been an iterative process. I've been thinking about this for a while. I actually tweeted something about a year ago asking my followers on Twitter, which, by the way, if you're not following me, Apron Bump across the board on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, MySpace, all of that stuff. Do that. But I asked everybody, what would your ideal pay-per-view schedule be? And I got a lot of answers, and I got a lot of, you know, ideas. And I also want to shout out to Bama Dave from the Bammer Slammer / Bammer Chatter podcast, formerly of the Smacked Raw podcast. We did a little live show about a year ago as well, where we all kind of collaborated and gave our ideas as far as what the ideal pay-per-view schedule would be. So go check that out if you have not already. But we're here to give a more concise, kind of just my take on it after a year of thinking what I really think it should be. And it should be said, you know, out front, pay-per-view names, they're just names, right? You can call a show No Mercy or Unforgiven or Great Balls of Fire or Penis in My Anus. It doesn't matter what you call a pay-per-view, because ultimately it's the content that happens during that show that makes it, right? However, I think the yearly schedule, the yearly structure of pay-per-views can be organized in a way that makes sense, that promotes building new stars, that promotes fresh matchups, that promotes getting the fans' input, that promotes variety, and just making every pay-per-view feel like an event. Which sounds like duh, of course, but there are things, themes. Themes is a big theme of this video, because you want every pay-per-view to feel different. You want every pay-per-view to feel like it has a purpose. And that was kind of my mindset in creating this list, because there's a logic and a flow to all of this that I believe will enhance the product from a fan's perspective, but also perhaps from a business perspective, from the perspective of WWE, in terms of building characters and storylines that could create an interesting product for fans to watch. That's the whole deal. That's what people call, that's ratings, etc. You get it. So how are we going to do this? First of all, we're going to start with WrestleMania, because ultimately that's the centerpiece in the year of WWE. We're not getting rid of WrestleMania. We're not rebranding it. We're not, calling it Wrestle Slam or Grapple Mania. Like, we're not doing that. WrestleMania is a brand in itself. It transcends pro wrestling. People from all over the world come to watch this show. It's a 2-night event. It's stupendous. We can't have something so stupendous. We can't fiddle with that too much. So we're going to start with WrestleMania. We're going to build everything around it, starting from the beginning of the year, working our way towards the old December time period. So, and just a few quick notes before we get into this, because they kind of affects the rest of the schedule. In this list, I do not include the Saudi Arabia shows for a variety of reasons. That could be a whole different episode in itself. But ultimately, Crown Jewel, fucking, Super Show, whatever you want to call it, these pay-per-views don't really, they're not uncanon. They are canon in the WWE universe, because world titles have changed on these shows. However, they kind of just fit in wherever, it's where you have your spectacle matches. It's where you bring in your Logan Pauls, your Cain Velasquez's, your Yokozunas. Well, that's what they wanted like 4 years ago. You can kind of just put whatever in that show. It doesn't really require a lot of thought. It's just there. Whatever the Saudi prince wants, he gets. So it doesn't affect anything, right? So for that reason, it doesn't affect anything on the list. So for a variety of other reasons as well, we're just going to ignore that, pretend they don't happen, or just throw them wherever. Who gives a turkey? Also, international shows. We just had Clash at the Castle in Wales, which is an awesome show. And in the past, we've also had shows like Rebellion, Insurrection, Canadian Stampede, Super Showdown in Australia. So international shows I love. However, I think these shows can just happen at the normal pay-per-views, aka SummerSlam 1992 in Wembley Stadium. Like these shows can just happen. You can have a European show that occurs at SummerSlam. You can have a show in Japan for, Fatal 4-Way. It is what it is. You can just have these shows wherever. It doesn't have to be a thing. So just know that there's not going to be any specific points in the year meant for international pay-per-views. But they will exist, from year to year. It varies. But yes, WrestleMania. Let's start there, like I said. Throw it in December. Just kidding. No, March, April. It just makes sense to have it there. The springtime, you're not competing with the Super Bowl or the World Series or any other playoffs of major sports. You're not dealing with summer vacations of people. You're not dealing with, crazy heats or crazy blizzards, or it just makes sense. Plus, us as fans, wrestling fans all over the world, are conditioned to have WrestleMania be in that March, April timeframe. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's March or April. End of March, beginning of April, I think either one works. For the purpose of this list, however, I'm gonna plop WrestleMania in the beginning of April. Like I said, we're all used to it. Don't need to reinvent the wheel, it works. And kind of tying into that, we got Royal Rumble, which kicks off the road to WrestleMania. Again, not getting rid of this pay-per-view. It's personally my favorite pay-per-view. It's fun, you know, looking forward to it every year. Winner gets a shot at WrestleMania. The whole gimmick, it just makes sense. And again, you know, not rocking the boat too much yet. We're gonna keep Royal Rumble in January. Again, couple months build to WrestleMania. This starts it. It just works. Most of the time, the precedent should be each winner of the Royal Rumble should get a main event slot at WrestleMania, or at least a co-main event, something along those lines. Now, February. What do we got in February? Fastlane. Some people don't like Fastlane. I think it just, we're on the road to WrestleMania, you're going fast. It's like, it's fun. Like, people want No Way Out to come back, but ultimately, like, it doesn't really make sense in the context of, like, it doesn't always have to be a cage match. Speaking of which, it doesn't have to be Elimination Chamber. Why do we have to be tied to Elimination Chamber in February? Like, you can have a Fastlane pay-per-view. You can have this evergreen pay-per-view. You can have an Elimination Chamber on that show, but why do we have to have it every year? It doesn't make sense to me. It takes away from the gimmick. It takes away from the match itself. I go into this in great detail on my podcast, which, by the way, you should go check that out. Long story short, gimmick match pay-per-views, they promote a laziness in the storytelling because it's the match type that's the selling point, not the story, not the characters. It's just, hey, look at this crazy, stupid cage. Buy the shit. Buy this show, why don't you? There's nothing in the build-up that's ever intriguing, and yeah, I get it. It dictates, you know, a #1 contender for certain titles. Maybe certain champions are crowned in the Elimination Chamber, but this is a match that can happen, you know, in any of the 12 months. I don't see why this needs to be cemented in February and no other month. Have Fastlane because it's good to have a pivot point in between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. It's good to have that bridge because it allows certain plot pivots to happen. It allows major drivers and story to occur. And it sets the stage for WrestleMania. There's a lot of reasons to have an in-between pay-per-view in between Rumble and WrestleMania. But I just don't think it needs to be Elimination Chamber. Have Fastlane. Just have this evergreen pay-per-view in between, and that's all you need. And it should be used in a way... It shouldn't be a speed bump. It shouldn't be a roadblock. It should be like a Mario speed boost. You know what I mean? It should enhance the build to WrestleMania. It shouldn't delay it. It shouldn't be a situation where it's like, oh, we gotta get to Fastlane and then we start building the rest. No, it should be a part of the build to WrestleMania. And that's why it's there, ultimately. And then March. What do we have in March? Not a damn thing. Have this month to dedicate to building to WrestleMania. Adding another pay-per-view, because they used to do like Elimination Chamber and Fastlane, and that just made too many stop and go deals. It just made everything so convoluted. Doesn't make sense to have another pay-per-view in between Rumble and WrestleMania other than Fastlane. So March, blank slate, have it to build to WrestleMania, which occurs, like we mentioned, early April. And another note about WrestleMania that I don't think I mentioned before. 2 nights, each night have a Money in the Bank ladder match. One night you have men's, one night you have women's. We don't need a pay-per-view for Money in the Bank. If you have them at WrestleMania, this gets rid of the need for these ridiculous battle royals that they do that have no meaning. Quick, who won the last one? Who won the one before it? You might remember Cesaro winning the first Andre the Giant Battle Royal. You might remember like Matt Hardy and Mojo. Like, we don't need it. We're past. We never needed it. But it just never was. It was always the miscellaneous hey, here's a payday, and that's everybody knows that. And that's how everybody perceived it, which made it feel like not a big deal. You have a Money in the Bank ladder match that's a real stakes and that has real implications going forward for the rest of the year. And it's a ladder match, it's fun, and then it's a situation where you could throw guys that maybe aren't on the card into the match. Give them that payday if that's what they want. Throw a bunch of guys, throw a bunch of ladies in there, and then have one winner in mind. And then you have a Mr. Money in the Bank, a Mrs. Money in the Bank going forward, and that's something that you can use to build that person and to build stories going forward. So we don't need Money in the Bank pay-per-view going forward. And I'll also add that not every WrestleMania needs Money in the Bank. We can take a break every now and then from Money in the Bank. I don't think we need it every year. In my opinion, it's getting a bit stale. It's getting a bit predictable, redundant, same storylines over and over again. I think it would be not the worst thing in the world if fans got a break from Money in the Bank. Take a year off, bring it back next year at WrestleMania, all of a sudden it's a huge deal again. And having the Money in the Bank occur at WrestleMania, not its own standalone pay-per-view, allows you to do that and allows you to have the Money in the Bank pay-per-view whenever you want. You're not obligated to do it every year. So that covers the road to WrestleMania, January through April. So what about May? Well, of course, WrestleMania Backlash. Just Backlash. Okay. It's Backlash. We get it. It's after WrestleMania. It's the Backlash from it. We don't need to have that in the logo. We don't need to have that as the name. We have working brains. We can just call it Backlash. As per the name, it's a good name. It's the reaction from WrestleMania. Because you might have huge happenings at WrestleMania. You might have debuts, returns. Even the Raw after WrestleMania, the SmackDown after WrestleMania. It's generally a big shakeup. And I'll even throw this monkey wrench at you. The draft occurs 2 weeks after WrestleMania. Maybe not every year, but maybe. But if there is going to be a draft, have it happen 2 weeks after WrestleMania. The week after WrestleMania is you usually have the Raws and SmackDowns. Again, it's the fallout. It's where you have the reactions of what happened at WrestleMania. New debuts, returns, major storyline pivots. They happen in that week. The second week, you have a formal shakeup of the roster. Not too much. More along the lines of how they did it back in 2005, when it was just a few big names and maybe just a few other miscellaneous ones. You don't have to have the whole. I feel like the past couple years it's just been everybody on the roster is just switched and now it's just different colors for each guy. Just have a few things to shake it up. You don't need a lot. The roster is huge at this point. You don't need a lot of drafts to shake up the roster. Because ultimately you have an endless supply. You have a warehouse full of wrestlers, whether it's NXT or whatever, that you can utilize to create new stories, create new stars. You don't need too many drafts. But if there is one to occur, it would be 2 weeks after WrestleMania. And like I said, Backlash, we use it to tie up loose ends, any loose ends that have, created themselves after WrestleMania. Also use it as a season premiere of sorts to kind of utilize the new stars that have either debuted or returned or have been traded or drafted or whatever. This is your opportunity to kind of kick off the new season of WWE with Backlash. And then brings us June. What do we have in June, folks? Sure as hell isn't Hell in a Cell, because remember, gimmick match pay-per-views are fucking stupid. No, June... It is gimmicky, but it makes sense in the context of where we are in the year. We're gonna return. We're gonna bring back an oldie. Cyber Sunday. Hooey. Now, lots to talk about this pay-per-view. First of all, if you're not familiar with Cyber Sunday, Taboo Tuesday, or any of these pay-per-views, it is fan vote driven. So you have matches throughout the show. You give the fans the ability to vote on certain criteria, whether it's wrestlers involved in the match, it can be the match type, it could be the referee, it can be what title is at stake, it can be a variety of things. But Cyber Sunday being after Backlash makes sense. because it allows the company to gauge the fans' perspective on the rosters. Because like I said, you have WrestleMania, you have this big spectacle occur, you have Backlash, which kind of kicks off a new season. Cyber Sunday allows, it's almost like a focus group of sorts in a way for WWE to, hey, pick which person you want to be in this match. Whoever gets picked, well, that's who the crowd wants, that's who we're going with for the rest of the year, or at least, you know, after the pay-per-view until it don't want to anymore. And like I said, outside of, you know, the big 4 pay-per-views, each pay-per-view should have its own identity, it should have its own theme. Doesn't necessarily need to be a gimmick, but in this case, in the context of where we are in the year, I think Cyber Sunday would make sense to kind of check the temperature or gauge fan supports or fan, you know, apathy on certain people, certain matches, things like that. And it just gives you a new, it's like, oh, it's Cyber Sunday. You know, it's not just another throwaway pay-per-view that's like, oh, whatever, you know, I'll catch the next one. No, it's like an event. You want to be a part of it. You want to vote for it. And you want to see if your vote got picked. There's just so many cool things about it that I think it should make its return. I don't see why it hasn't in this day and age. And maybe a reason people think that it hasn't returned is because fans will rig the votes or whatever, but it's not like you're giving the fans free reign to just book it from scratch. You give them 3 options. It's like, hey, you have Gunther's defending his Intercontinental title. You get to choose. It's either Sheamus, Ricochet, or Rey Mysterio. It's like all plausible options. It's not like Gunther's defending his Intercontinental Championship. You get to choose, you know, Sheamus, or Ricochet, or Quincy Elliott. Like, of course, fans are gonna be assholes and pick Quincy Elliott just to see the, just to see the world implode and just to see Quincy destroy Imperium with his bananas or whatever. I don't follow NXT a lot, but it seems like what's happening over there. But like I said, you give the fans plausible options. You have, you know, a route forward, whatever gets picked. You don't have these outlandish things that'll ruin the show or that'll derail the show or derail anyone's builds or anything. You can have fun with it, but also keep it reasonable. It just makes sense to have it here in June, in my opinion. July. What do we got in July? King of the Ring. Let's do it, baby. Bring back the pay-per-view. Miss it. Always loved King of the Ring. It's just like a good staple to have for lots of reasons. Because you got Backlash, kicks off everything. Cyber Sunday gauges fan support, tells you where the fans' heads are at in terms of who they support, who they don't support. King of the Ring, now we're gonna start committing to the pushes of certain wrestlers. Because now that we've established who we're going with, now we can really commit to making certain guys look strong, whether it's by winning the tournament itself or just having a strong showing, maybe making it to the finals. Maybe someone you didn't expect to make it that far in the tournament makes it and almost wins it, but oh, they get it snatched away from them, and then now all of a sudden you have sympathy for a new babyface or whatever it is, right? It's an effective tactic. It's an effective avenue to build new stars. It always has been. Well, when it was its own pay-per-view, it always allowed that to happen. So I say bring it back. And winner gets a shot at SummerSlam. Maybe not every year. We don't have to, you know, make it an obligation. But I think it makes sense for the winner of King of the Ring to go on to SummerSlam and just get a world title shot. To me, that makes sense. Again, you don't have to have it happen every year, but that just adds on some stakes to it other than getting a crown, a robe, and a scepter. And I should say that this is men only. This is not Queen of the Ring or Queen's Crown or whatever they called it. We'll get to that. Don't you worry. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. We'll get to that. August. Winter Slam. Just kidding. SummerSlam, of course. August. Again, another staple. It's what we've been building to since WrestleMania. This is a event in which you have the blow-off of the feuds that have been happening since WrestleMania to now. You have your new stars that you've established, the new stories that have been allowed to cultivate on each brand. since WrestleMania, since the draft and all that. Have the blow off at SummerSlam, make it a big event. And I think WWE has actually done a very good job at that in the past couple of years with these huge stadium shows. It just feels like a spectacle. It almost feels WrestleMania-esque. You have Brock Lesnar flipping the ring with a tractor. You have, like I said, these huge stadiums, the outdoor element of it. It just always feels, at least the past couple of years, it's felt epic. And I think we should go that way going forward, because there are a few years there where SummerSlam just felt like another pay-per-view. It should be a summer WrestleMania. Now, it doesn't need to be explicitly said that. They don't need to, oh, it's the WrestleMania of the summer, or what'd they do that for? They did it for like a crown jewel or something. It was like bigger than WrestleMania. Like, is it? Is it because you said it? It is? Okay, cool. No, you don't have to explicitly say that it's a summer WrestleMania, but just build towards it with the same vigor and excitement that you would get with the road to WrestleMania. September. Don't do shit. Keep it blank. Again, we just blew our load in August with SummerSlam. Less pay-per-views, the better, in my opinion, because whatever you need to do to make them feel special. If you have them so often, if you have 15, 16 pay-per-views a year, it's like, oh, I'll just miss this one, I'll catch the next one. And they all become forgettable, and they all just become a blurred just mess. Have them segmented properly and staggered. Have each one mean something. If you just throw a pay-per-view in September, I mean, I guess you could have like a different kind of backlash deal in September, but in my opinion, I don't think we need another one, because you can also have September a blank slate. You can have international tours. You can have other special events. You could have like a Worlds Collide type of deal, or even if they wanted to bring back a Rebellion maybe every once in a while, you know, like a UK specific show or something. A lot like you can just have this month where you can just do whatever, but you don't necessarily need a pay-per-view. Maybe have a big, you know, Raw special or a SmackDown special or an NXT special. Not every big match needs to be in the umbrella of pay-per-view, PLE, what have you. You can have big shows outside of pay-per-view. And I think that's something that should be highlighted more is, you know, just big shows on TV. You can do that. Have your TV shows mean something every once in a while. Have big world title matches. Have huge stakes involved in your main events on Raw and SmackDown. September is a perfect place you could do that. October. What are we doing here, folks? I bet you guessed it. Halloween Havoc. So, as of recording this, we're kind of fresh off the heels off of NXT having their Halloween Havoc event. And I think this is a show that should be brought to the main roster and should be made a pay-per-view for Raw and SmackDown for a couple reasons. For one, it's just fun. It's just aesthetically cool to have Halloween Havoc, you know, the goblin, the skulls and the spider webs or whatever the hell, you know, like WCW. It's an homage to an old school pay-per-view, but adding their new spin to it. It's just a cool name. It's Halloween. Everybody's in the Halloween mood. Like, come on. It just makes sense. And one thing about this prior NXT Halloween Havoc that I thought was interesting, it was almost like their version of Extreme Rules. Like every match had a gimmick. They did the spin the wheel, make a deal thing for a few matches. And even the ones that didn't, they had a lot of gimmicky stuff occurring. And this could almost be a version of Extreme Rules on the main roster as well. I don't think you need Extreme Rules. Again, another thing with the gimmick match pay-per-views, the story should justify the match. It shouldn't be the other way around. Like, it shouldn't be a thing if it's, oh, it's June, gotta figure out who's gonna be in the Hell in a Cell. No, it should be, we have this story, it's a hot story, it needs a blow off. Throw them in a cage, throw them in a cell, throw them in a chamber, throw them in whatever, right? And Extreme Rules is kind of along those lines where it's like, oh, we got to figure out, we got Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross. What type of match could they have? And then you're just going through the list, and it's like we're shoehorning these gimmicks into matches that probably don't deserve them. So Halloween Havoc, it can be an Extreme Rules type of event where it's a lot of gimmick matches, but it also, some years might not be, or it might be half and half. You know, you might have a couple of gimmick matches, but then you also have some normal matches. So it's a way to have Extreme Rules without calling it Extreme Rules. Therefore, you're not obligated to have, you know, a tables match, a strap match, a ladder match, a kiss my ass match, a Judy Bagwell on a Viagra pole match. Like, it doesn't, you don't need to do it, but it's that placeholder in which you can, if the stories make sense at that point in time. And again, you know, spin the wheel, make the deal. It's another way to kind of put wrestlers in certain situations that they otherwise might not be in. Another element, another tool in building new stars and creating new stories. November. What we got, folks? Survivor Series, of course. Again, Big Four. I'm not really fiddling with the Big Four here. The Thanksgiving Day tradition. We're all conditioned for Survivor Series to be in November. There's really no reason to shift it any other way. Some people might think, hey, Survivor Series has kind of lost its luster over the past few years. Let's just get rid of it. Well, and I say to that, no. Because it's lost its luster. Because it's been built as a brand versus brand show. It's been built as bragging rights for several years now, and then the brand split has come and gone. They haven't really enforced it. It's been very loose. So the brand supremacy thing, it also occurs usually after a draft. There's a variety of reasons why Survivor Series and the brand versus brand thing hasn't worked. There's also no stakes to it. Like, just get rid of the brand versus brand element to it, which seems like they're doing. You know, again, recording this in late October, so we're not, no official word yet, but there's been no allusion to Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series. We don't need to do the copy paste champion versus champion structure. Make Survivor Series its own thing, like it was in the old days. Have your traditional 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches that have storyline implications and aren't just, you know, I wear red, you wear blue, let's have a match. No, we're gonna have, you know, have the Bloodline versus the Brutes, or the Imperium versus some people. Have storyline elements to these traditional Survivor Series matches. And these elimination matches, these traditional Survivor Series elimination matches, again, make the show feel different. It makes it feel like an event. It's like, oh, Survivor Series is happening. I sure would love to see those matches, because you're not going to see it any other time during the year. It's its own thing. It's its own unique thing that gives the pay-per-view its own identity. So that's why we do it here. And with Survivor Series, just the name and the nature of it, because this year we're having War Games. But maybe the year after that we have Elimination Chamber. Maybe the year after that we have, you know, a Hell in a Cell, or, you know, scramble matches, or maybe we don't have any of those gimmick and we just have the 5-on-5. It gives you, you're not obligated into a certain match type. It makes you structure the show in a way where the stories make sense. And it keeps it fresh from year to year. It's not like, oh, it's November, gotta have a War Games match. No, you don't need to do that every year. Switch it up, keeps things fresh, keeps gimmick matches important, and it makes them mean something. And that brings us to December. So this is a month that this is probably my most debated month personally, because part of me just wants to have nothing in December, because December is always kind of a lean part of the year in terms of storylines, in terms of the product. But it's like, why waste a month here? Because we're coming off of a Survivor Series, a very gimmick heavy show, so I think you can afford to have another pay-per-view afterwards. And in my opinion, December is where you would have Evolution, the all-female pay-per-view. Now, maybe you don't need this every year, but maybe you could. But I think if you're gonna have it within the year, December is a good month. But what happens at Evolution? Well, you can mimic what they did last time. You can have the Mae Young Classic. You can have the finals occur on this show. Have all the titles defended, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the tag team titles, have all of that occur on this show. Also, have the Queen of the Ring tournament. Have the finals, maybe the semifinals and the finals occur on this show. You can play around with it. But in turn, you can have all the Legends matches, the title matches, the spectacle matches, the grudge matches. Also have the Queen of the Ring culminate on this show. Have the Mae Young Classic to build up new stars, and just allow the women to have this night, because the first Evolution was great. It felt like its own unique thing. The vibe was just different. It was cool, you know, and what harm is there in doing another one? They have the talent, that's for sure. So Evolution, December, book it. And that's the list, folks. So yeah, 10 pay-per-views throughout the year. I think that's all you need. That's even kind of more than I wanted to when building this list, but I think there's enough variety and things are staggered enough to where it makes sense. And like I said, it's not just like, oh, Unforgiven, you know, 2006 was great. Let's bring back that because the show back then was really good. No, because Unforgiven, No Mercy, Fully Loaded, like all these shows are just evergreen names. They don't have any effect on what happens on this show. The way I've structured this, each show has its own purpose in relation to where it lies throughout the year. Really everything kind of centers around WrestleMania and the big four and all that stuff. And that's how everything is dictated on this list. So that's why it is. And it brought back some oldies, brought some new things in, like Halloween Havoc hasn't been a WWE pay-per-view before. Very thematic pay-per-views and things that feel like events when you tune into them. I think pay-per-views should always strive to be can't-miss things, should be once-in-a-year deals, and it just makes them feel special when it enhances all the stories and the characters and provides a basis to have good wrestling on it, great shows, and I think this pay-per-view structure promotes that and sets old Papa H and everyone else involved to have success. So that's my list. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. Do you disagree with any of this? Do you agree with all of it? Which you all probably do, right? Leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already. I have a podcast, the Apron Bump Podcast. I cover a lot of retro wrestling, companies big and small across 4 different decades. Cover the Monday Night Wars. I cover, you know, the golden ages of TNA and Ring of Honor and Progress Wrestling. Cover the Ruthless Aggression era, the Attitude era, bunch of stuff. Go to apronbump.com. You can find all my full episodes. You can go to the episodes tab at the top and you can filter to whatever era, promotion that you are interested in, or you can just find me on any audio platform, any podcast platform, and of course right here on YouTube as well. I think that's about all Daddy has for you today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Love you all. Big smooches. I'm hard.
Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing